Welcome to the Marketing 101 for Small Business Owners podcast, guys. I'm so excited to start our conversation today, really focusing on the next year. We're just days away from 2024, and we need to really be thinking about our small business marketing, especially when it comes to SEO. Sometimes it can be a little technical and a little difficult to think about and wrap our brains around if you're not in that world all the time. So I have brought in a SEO expert, Nick Musica, to help us implement what we can throughout the year to really improve our SEO results. So Nick, please introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about who you are, your company, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Philippa. So my name is Nick Musica. I run Optics In. We focus largely on SEO for small businesses. I've been doing SEO since 2003 in one form or another. I worked at eSurance for a while. I worked at a local car insurance company in New Jersey before coming out to California. Worked for a local publisher here in San Diego, where when I started, we were getting 85 million visits a year. And when I left the company 6 years later, I was getting 185 million visits a year. And that was done through a bunch of good practices and scale. And so I like to take those experiences working for those companies and distill them down into ways where we can operationalize them for smaller companies with smaller teams, but stay organized and stay on track with our efforts.
Okay, perfect. It sounds, obviously you're getting good results. So you have had the experience, you know what you're doing, can really help some small business owners make a difference. So
Yeah, we
let's
have a good track record of getting some pretty good results for folks. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. So let's start right off to say, okay, help a small business owner, somebody who's just getting started. Let's start with the basics. What does SEO really mean, and why is it important? Why should they be considering it and making it a priority?
Yeah. And this is a typical conversation. Why SEO now? Why is this important now? Why should I get started today versus 12 months or from now or 12 months prior?
Yeah.
And frequently, the conversation I have with folks is, I'm always at least 3 months behind, right? No matter what we're doing, the conversation is, I'm behind, and here's the
Yeah.
reason for it: business expectations, as well as Google takes a while to catch on to things sometimes. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a newer website, it's going to take longer to catch on
Yeah.
than if you have a website that's been sitting there largely idle, doing the right things, but not really focusing on SEO. And by doing the right things, I mean not creating technical blockages or not spamming Google or not creating a bad history.
Okay.
And so what we've seen from to get to start to lay out some expectations is we've seen newer websites, it takes about 9 months for the results to really get interesting.
Okay.
But that also, uh, you need to fund it, you need to capitalize and resource the efforts as well. We're not talking about one page, one writer, for
Mm-hmm.
example, but well, we did the thing and now we're waiting 9 months. That's not like, you need to structure what we're doing, why we're doing it,
Yeah.
and that's going to be different for every business.
Yeah.
But typically in 9 months, you start to look at it and go, oh, now I see now I see what you're talking about. Now it's starting to make sense. Okay. Versus a newer an existing website that's been out in the wild for a while, um, and has a good history, or there's a blockage that happened to show up in the
Mm-hmm.
system. And so with a site that's been around for a while, and we got really good results for a website. um, Site's been around for about 10 years, never focused on SEO, and we produced a fair amount of content. However, what I'm about to say is not a typical result. The 9 months is
Okay.
way more typical for small businesses. Um,
Yeah.
but this website, we produced a fair amount of content. We went from 14,000 visits to 200,000 visits within about 6 months of publishing
Nice.
because of the history, right? So think about it this way. I live in a 50 unit community here. I know the guy on the left of me and the guy to the right to me. We have rapport. We have a relationship, even if it's just by name only. There's a sense of being familiar with each other, right? We've been
Yeah.
in the same space for a while. The house over there, someone just moves in. Everyone wants to know who that is. Everyone's a little guarded in terms of who they are and how much I want to share. And that's
Yeah.
the same relationship Google has with your website. So, in terms of what we can expect and how we can expect it, that relationship that I just described is one of the key fundamental areas around building your SEO. So coming back to the original question is like, why should SEO even be considered, and why is it important? Well,
Hmm.
it takes time to build up, but once it's sort of like a muscle. But once you build it up, largely you have this strength. You have SEO strength now, and
Yeah.
now you have an asset for your company, for your website. And ideally, you worked on the right keywords, you have the right strategy, and people are filling out the form, they're buying on the site, whatever your is running your the nuts and bolts of your business. People are taking that call to action and they're supporting the business.
Okay, so for a small business owner, I like the analogy you gave of the new neighbor moving in, and neighbors, wondering, should they trust this person? Who is this person? What are they about? So similarly, if you're a new company, you launch, you create a website, Google says, if all you do is launch the website, but you're not adding content to let us know more about you, it's not going to trust you as much. So just
Yeah.
having a website alone is not enough. You really need to be putting out some consistent content on a regular basis.
Well, so yeah, let's see how far this metaphor goes until it falls apart.
Yeah.
So going back to the neighborly thing, right? So you moved in, that's your new website.
Yep.
But you never come outside. People don't even know you live there, right? They see you driving back and forth. Um, we live in a very wavy neighborhood. I mean, when we first moved in here to check out the place, day one, we were like, everyone waves here. It's so interesting. And so, like, that's the tell. Like, does someone live here? They're waving. If they
Yeah.
don't wave, it's like Uber Eats or something like that coming through. Like, so you're like, there's this standoffish type thing.
Okay.
So like, there's this um, there's this casual expected behavior as a neighbor. And that's also true of a website. Real businesses are active. So so yeah, maybe it's new content. Maybe it's updating the content that was okay to put out on day one, because content is the last thing on the list of things to get done when putting out a website. And then
Yeah.
it's always sort of like pushed over the wall, like last minute. Like it's pretty good. We'll fix it. Well, you
Yeah.
have to go back and fix it, right? You can't just think that, then go on to the next shiny thing. There's also Google Business Listings,
Yeah.
your local listing. So that's a form, I would argue, that's content. There's also, in this broader sense of, is this business viable? Is it alive? Did it just buy a domain, get a hosting package, and now it's dying on the vine? Like those are, we
Yeah.
don't want to fit into that model.
Yeah.
So what does a real business do? It may or may not register with BBB. It may or may not have a Google business listing, uh, Microsoft listing, Bing listing. It may or may not be on Yelp. It may or may not have reviews. It may or may not have responses to those reviews. Depending on your category, you can respond more openly than not. Hats are
Yeah.
very different than finances, for example. I'm glad you love the hat. It comes in red, pink, and blue.
Yeah.
Finance, not so much. Like there's some regulations you need to dance around at best. But the idea of having that good relationship, and what that means to have a good relationship and that active communication, to know that someone's active in your community and being a good community member, are all those ways I just described, right? Updating your
Okay.
website,
Yep.
Google business listing, all those things. And also it's, going back to the community metaphor, if I ask my neighbor who I've known for 10 years about my new neighbor, I'm curious what their take is on them. And
Yes.
and what
Yes. Yes.
and the way that works out in our world in SEO is, well, what are the other websites that are saying things about you?
Yeah.
Because if no one's talking about you, then maybe you're just not worth talking about.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about SEO, enough to know that we have mentioned and we've touched on a couple different examples of what SEO is and how it can actually be executed. Some local listings, things on your website. So is there like a little checklist or a little summary of the different types of SEOs that small business owners should be considering? It's not all just keywords. There's a little bit more to it than just that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And keywords are they're really the start of the conversation.
Yeah.
What are people searching for? And more importantly, what do they really mean when they do that search? Right.
Yeah.
So I worked in car insurance for more than a minute. I worked at a local New Jersey company, and then I worked at Esurance for a while. Then the publisher I was mentioning, we had a bunch of car insurance content. So I've been working in car insurance for years, it would seem. Um, and the number one query related to car insurance is car insurance. And what does that mean?
Yeah.
There's no context to that, right? There's none. Um, and so our job as marketers was to start to understand the context of queries where there really wasn't any. What's someone actually, what do they want, or how is Google interpreting that query in terms of the intent? We
Yeah.
have to get there one of the two ways. So we want to take a look at those queries and start to understand what it looks like for someone, a user, when they're typing in that query to have an intent around the information or the products that they're looking um, to act on when they type in that query. So for local businesses to get down to actionable items, you want to get that Google local business up, and you want to manage it. You want to have the right categories in there. If you
Yeah.
could do three things, um, claim the listing, put the right categories in there, get folks to give you reviews and respond to those reviews. If you did that, you'd be doing way more than what other people do, really.
Yeah.
And be giving Google the signals of what am I about and am I active? Arguably, that's what Google wants most from those listings.
Yeah.
When it comes to your website, who are you doing what and what are you doing it for? So you may have certain services for certain industries you provide, um, and you can have individual pages about those things. We do X for Y, page one, two, three, four, and five. Speak to your people. Tell
Yeah.
them who you are and what you can do for them. So there's no mistaking around, am I on the right page or not? So that's going to be helpful.
Okay. And for Google my I did it was a Google business profile now, I believe. I still say
It,
Google my business, but I feel like
I
it's
know.
Google business profile. And it's kind of like saying, do I say Twitter or do I say X? It's you know what I mean.
I still say PPC.
There you go. So for Google, I know I thankfully I didn't have to use it, but I know they have a website builder for those that need it.
Oh,
And I was going to go with something else on there, but for a small business owner, when they go through Google and they get all that set up, especially if they decide to use the Google website builder,
yeah.
is if somebody is so I imagine somebody on Google searching for a business is probably going to that website's probably going to land in their search query somewhere along the list because they're relying so much on Google for everything in that case. But if somebody's searching on Bing, would they still get good? I mean, I'm probably asking a too technical question here, but would Bing, if somebody, a user on Bing who needs the services of that business who's relying 100% on a Google website built in their platform, are they going to be good?
Yeah, so we're talking about, is Google partial to its own products?
Yeah.
Um, well, if you were to go to Google and start querying random queries, and videos start showing up, you're going to see YouTube more than any other platform, right?
Yes.
You just will.
Yep.
Um, you will also see Twitter, X, however we want to call it these days, Facebook.
Yeah.
You're not going to see Google Plus because Google's been historically awful with their own social media.
Yeah.
I think they're up to three uh, products that just constantly failed. So that's not an option for them.
Yeah.
But you will see YouTube. In terms of Google websites, I put them into the broader category of either it's my first website as a small business, um, or I mean, I guess that's it really. It's my
Yeah.
first website as a business, right?
Yep.
So Wix, and nothing against Wix,
Hmm.
and some of the other platforms, but largely, 30% of the websites online, says a report that I read a while back, are WordPress sites.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
if you were to take a look at the top 10 websites for just about any query, it's either going to be WordPress or Shopify
Yep.
for the most part. If you had a dollar to bet every day on, are the majority of the websites in the top 10 going to be WordPress or Shopify, I take that bet every
Yep.
day.
Yep.
Um, because they're just who they are, right? So typically it falls into two categories. One is I'm a publisher and therefore I feel more comfortable on WordPress, but then I'll get WooCommerce if I turn into e-commerce, and or Shopify. It's, I have a thing to sell. Where do you go to do that? You talk to any other entrepreneur and they go, well, obviously go to Shopify.
Shopify.
Okay,
Yep.
and so that's what they do. And so I would argue that, um, you probably, if you're on one of the smaller platforms, it's probably okay today to get your business running. However, in terms of driving visibility more broadly,
Yeah.
they're going to be very limited. And
Yep.
so you need to make the decision as to, how am I going to run my business and who's going to help me? If you're a do it all type of person, DIY everything, maybe one of the smaller platforms is better for you, but at
Yeah.
some point you're going to have to step into WordPress or Shopify, and then you need
Yeah.
to make decisions around, do I want to take this on, or do I want to work with someone to run this website?
Yep. Yeah, you've gotta upgrade in that sense,
Yeah,
because I for a while had my website, through a system. I love the platform, but their strong suit was email marketing. It just so happened you can build websites through it too. So I was like, "Oh, perfect. I'll build my website here." But I realized quickly it was fine. There it worked SEO wise because
yeah,
my website was getting found. I was showing up in search queries. However, there were some basic things that I was limited to that I didn't realize how much it would impact me. So, which everybody should be aware of and be careful for. If you're not using one of the bigger known platforms like WordPress, Squarespace, I
yeah.
think is good. Wix, I think has it, but the platform I use, I couldn't even get a simple site index. And I'm like, and that's huge. I wasn't able to export that or put the right file. I couldn't access where to put the code in so
Yeah,
Google Search Console can do its thing. And
right.
that's huge. So
Yeah,
those are just some things small business owners, yes, when you're first getting started, do what you got to do. But in the long run, little things like that is going to make an impact if you're really going to rely on website presence to run your business.
yeah. And I think that's really the right way to think about it. Is, if you want a website business to help run your business, or a website to help run your, a presence to run your business, then we're talking Shopify or WordPress most likely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, awesome. I would love to do, which, if we can do it on the fly, is
Yeah.
again looking for towards 2024. Maybe come up with like a little checklist, like we've mentioned, Google My Business, making sure your profile is updated. Are there any little things that we could add to a checklist that small business owners could say, yes, we need to make sure we get these done in the first quarter, so we're setting ourselves up better for 2024?
Yeah, so when it comes to the web presence, I mean, you really want to be intentional about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get that right, how you're doing it really doesn't matter. And it does matter. I don't want to poo-poo the how we're doing it, because we just spent 15 minutes talking about the how to some
Yeah.
degree. Um, but if you're not doing the right things, for the right reasons, who cares about doing those things the best way possible? So
Yeah.
we want to start out with being very intentional about our strategy, our expectations, and what we're looking to accomplish. Super super simple,
Yep.
very simple, and also that's not a simple conversation,
Yeah.
because most folks are like, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and this other thing, and this is, did I mention this thing?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
a big company. It sounds like you have 50 people. No, it's just me. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then maybe
Yep.
we should choose one of those and then focus that thing.
Yes.
Um, so let's be very intentional about what we're doing, why we're doing it.
Yeah.
Once we have that down, we can start to say, well, how does that get expressed? Where are the best places where that strategy can be expressed? And online, it's typically uh, Google My Business. Google accounts for 85, 90% of the market share. So we typically don't talk about Bing a lot.
Yeah.
Also, there's companies that make a fair amount of money from Bing. If you have a older audience base, they buy PCs, they don't change their browser, and Bing is the default. So so Bing is going to be helpful in those cases.
Yep. Yep.
um, but Google My Business, Bing has its equivalent. Um, get on Yelp. Go to where the people are.
Yes.
Right, like there's the reason. What was it? Jesse James? Why do you rob banks? That's where the money is. Go to where the people are.
Yeah.
So go to all those networks. Well, what about Facebook? What about Instagram? Maybe, but you're building
Mhm.
something from scratch there. So start with the websites where there's already an audience. If
Yeah.
it's a restaurant, best X type of food in place. Get on Yelp, right? Get that local list, business listing.
Yes.
Maybe you want to buy an ad for local business in
Yeah.
Google. You can do that. It's an option.
Yep.
If that's where your people are, then it serves you to be upfront. Yeah, maybe you should do that. Be very clear with your website. Have a phone number that works. Have a phone number that's easy to find. A lot of the basics people just don't. It almost feels too pushy for people.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the most frustrating things is when you have to actually call the company and can't find the phone number. It should be in the top of the web page. It should be right there. If it's not there, it should be on the contact us page.
Yep.
And and if it's
Bottom contact. Yes.
right, like, yeah, like it's just there's web conventions where um, acceptable places where we all agreed that there's certain information should be. That's largely a definition of a web convention. How
Yeah.
things work in very specific ways. So where is the phone number? It's in the banner. It's on the about us page. It's in the footer. It's in the contact us page. Right. It's at least in two of those four places. If
Yeah.
it's not there, then someone's not going to be able to call you. And if they find the number, they may be frustrated when they actually do call you. So let's make sure how to get in touch with you is done fairly easily. Having clear navigation on your website, the homepage, the about us page, the services you offer, maybe the products you offer, depending if it's a service or a product business. It doesn't have to be fancy, it just has to be clear.
Yeah. Two things that I thought of when you're talking to that may affect, especially some of these small business like myself. I'm here. My office is in my basement. I don't have an office, don't need an office space, don't need that expense. And so right now, because I felt forced to in terms of some of the features that were available for me, and some of the third party apps that connect to Google My Business. I felt forced to put my home business address on there because they wouldn't accept a P.O. box.
Yeah.
I get it, but I don't get it. You would think there's so many small business owners now operating out of their home that Google would have caught up to this and found a way around it to kind of give some protection. I've got three small kids. I don't want my home address on there. So, do you have any advice for small business owners operating out of their house to be able to make the best of their Google profile without giving away where they live?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can choose the region, but it's not going to be as it's not going to it's probably not going to get you the results you want. So we
Yeah,
just got into buying ads, right? So typically the formula is where you cannot fully optimize a non-paid listing. The answer is typically ads, right?
yeah,
Right? I don't want to put my home address. Okay, buy an ad so that you show up for very specific queries for certain places.
yeah,
I want results from SEO tomorrow. You're not going to get them. Go buy ads. I'm not saying
yep,
it's a good idea, but I'm just saying like that is the conversation.
yeah,
Um, and I share the same feelings you have as someone who works out of their home. Also, the reason why Google has done that historically is because there are folks who call themselves SEOs who will create thousands of listings or have
yeah,
historically created thousands of listings use PO box numbers, use UPS addresses, right?
Yep.
And just spam for best thing in place, where best
Yeah.
thing may be highly monetizable car insurance or something like that,
Yep. Yeah.
and and then choose the top 20 cities. And so that is why Google does that. Right there,
Yeah.
they keep ratcheting down. Are you a real person? They want to know you're a real person in a real business. And that's
Right.
uncomfortable when you work out of your home.
Yeah. And I totally get it. I would just wish maybe there was a way for Google for us to put that information in the back end and not have it to be, out front in public, be able to list the service area to the public, but Google knows this is where the business registered. But that's, maybe Google will listen to our conversation and make some changes. But I totally get it. There's a lot of legitimate reasons why. It's just I wish there was a way around it. And so a lot of small business owners like myself will sometimes have a special, some type of deal that's part of their main package, part of their services, but they really want to highlight it. So that's what they'll run an ad on. And so, for instance, I have a program that I'm launching this January, very excited about. But I need to create a landing page for it. And I know there's several ways to create. You can either just create a page right on your website, your same domain, and focus on that. And that's what you use as your URL. Or there's programs and there's software out there, websites that offer landing page development where you can have a nice, sleek landing page. It's different from your regular website. But I'm wondering, SEO wise, is it smarter to stay on your domain? Or is it okay to use one of these programs out there that not necessarily tied to your domain? Is SEO wise, is one better than the other?
Yeah, so here's an example of, depending on the scenario, SEO may have to take a back seat. And so here's what I
Mm,
mean by that. If we're talking about essentially a direct response model, right, where you're expecting to push not through SEO, but push a certain amount of traffic to the page. You're going to push 100 people there. Out of the 100 people, 10 people are going to express interest. 5 people are actually going to buy, and that equates, and it's $100 average shopping cart or something like that. And it all pencils
yeah.
out, and it's all okay. And you get to own the customer, because that's something we want to have happen there. Then
Yes.
you can always remarket them and bring them back to your website.
Okay.
Right. So, but if we were to think about, your website is the center of the universe. The only thing you really have control over is your website.
Yep.
You may gain or lose visibility in Google. You still have a website. Facebook
Yeah.
may or may not shut you down. You still have a website, right? Like, and that
Yeah.
scenario exists for everything we're talking about. So as long as whatever that path is for marketing, we're always coming back to the website. That's how I would encourage the thinking. For SEO,
Okay.
we could have a hidden page on the
Hmm.
website, and then someone can always hit the home, the icon, the logo,
Yeah.
or a home link, and they can go back and be in the proper website. So you can, depending on how you're running your website, you can easily create a landing page. It's just a matter
Yeah.
of what's the result you're going for ultimately, and is it going to serve you with the tools that you currently have.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Because I know a lot of people are, obviously not, and everybody's website developers or website designers. So really, they'll first thing they'll jump to is these, other brands, other little sources that create landing pages, which sounds like it's fine if it's for a temporary purpose. You're primarily focusing on Google Ads, bringing them in there, but eventually they get back to your main website
Yeah,
somehow.
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about was social media. And I think in more the terms of the sense of SEO. When I think of social media and SEO, I immediately think of, using local hashtags when you're doing posts so people in your local area show up, but also ensuring that it's your profile is listed correctly. That way, if somebody does go to Google and search your business name, your Facebook, your Instagram account should also show up, adding credibility to your
Sure.
business, showing that yes, you're the more listings that come up when somebody searches you, the better. Is there any other SEO benefits that having social media accounts optimized
Yeah,
for?
it's so, depending on the company, depending on the category. sometimes things can get, we'll call it a little wonky, and someone can start to tell a story about you that you don't want to have told,
Mm.
right? So we're getting into reputation management and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
public relations and things of that nature. The best way to stay in front of that, or the best way to have those things not to happen, is to stay in front of it. And the best way to stay in front of it is when you do a search for your name and your company, is that you are owning as much of that real estate on Google as possible.
Mm.
Right. So there's
Okay.
8.5 billion users or searches a day on Google. And it's not because
Yeah.
people have to use Google. It's because they want to use Google. So they are going there no matter what. There's a lot of people going there on a daily basis. If you were to
Yeah.
a lot of actors, because of the uh, the various media types, videos, images, they have a team of people running their socials. Like Hugh Jackman is someone that I recently had a conversation about someone as a good example. If you search for him, and I think this would still largely be true, you're going to get a
Yeah.
knowledge panel, you're going to get YouTube videos, you're going to get Twitter. Some of these images and videos are his, some of them are someone else, but
Yeah.
largely it's a lot of him showing up or his people managing his online presence. And so
Yeah.
if someone says something nasty about Hugh Jackman, it could easily show up in the news. Also, there's going
Yeah.
to be a bunch of other things that could be distracting in terms of pushing that news down and getting someone back on the path of Hugh Jackman to his Twitter, to X, to Facebook, to his website, to YouTube, wherever it may be. So it's really about owning how you show up as best as possible in the search.
Okay.
Yeah. Controlling the
Perfect.
controllables is the simple way to phrase it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Nick, I think hopefully we've touched on a lot of different ways that SEO is important. Provided a lot of good examples of ways small business owners can take control of their SEO, make an impact this coming year. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, being patient with all my struggles today during our conversation.
My pleasure.
Thank you for that. How can people get to know you better, connect with you directly? Any website, social medias you'd like for them to find you?
Yeah, thanks. LinkedIn, Nick Musica. You can find me there. Shoot me a message there. That's probably the best way to do it these days. And there's also my website, opticsin.com. That is optics in one word.com.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck with the next year coming, and hopefully we'll get to talk again soon.
Thank you. Back at you.